Talk about the Pastors College for a minute. So this year, believe it or not, 25th anniversary for the class of 99.
That you were in.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Last class of the millennium, baby. Come on.
That's
so
amazing.
So 25 years, that marks 25 years you've been the dean. 26 years Pastors College has been going. I mean, just top of your head, talk about the fruit that you see in Sovereign Grace churches, pastors, preaching, church life from 26 years of Pastors College.
Yes. Well, that's when you say fruit, it's a little awkward. When I think fruit, I think people.
Yeah.
And when I think about all the guys that have been through the Pastors College, and when I think about where they were when they came and what they're doing now, and how they're not only leading in churches but have moved into positions of responsibility for our denomination, where they're serving extra locally in many ways, it's thrilling for me, really. When I go to a pastor's conference and just look out and I just see the proportion of our pastors gathered there, worshiping, learning, coming from serving God's people, being equipped to serve God's people. I remember them, the majority of them, I remember them when they were young. They were not in ministry. There's been a shaping effect on our denomination, I think, through these individuals and through their wives and through their families as they have taken their place and served and grown and borne fruit and had their even responsibilities increase throughout our denomination. So I just think so much of who we are derives from the education that the men received, the shaping that they received in the Pastors College, the relationships that happened in the Pastors College that have continued to be nurtured over the years, those shared experiences that bond them together. And so guys are serving each other's churches and going on vacation together and preaching at each other's conferences and regional assemblies and things like that. To me, it's the people, and it's the way in which our entire family of churches has been shaped by these guys. It's really gratifying for me.
Love that. Okay, so Sovereign Grace is a denomination, but we often refer to Sovereign Grace as a family of churches, because anybody who's been around Sovereign Grace for very long at all knows that we are rich in relationships, rich in friendship and fellowship among pastoral teams and among churches. There's a real partnership, and Sovereign Grace churches partner together in many different ways. There's many different strands of that partnership, from theology to doctrine to polity and the songs that we sing and our training. So I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about what role does the Pastors College play in reinforcing that partnership between Sovereign Grace churches?
Yes, I love that question. And in talking about the Pastors College, it may be the most important question we could answer with regard to our pastors. And what's key is the phrase, for our partnership. I think our guys, maybe people on the outside can think of the Pastors College as merely, another educational institution. Therefore, one among many. Therefore, it becomes part of a menu of options for certain guys. But the Pastors College is more than an educational institution, and it's more than such an institution because of who we are as a family of churches, because of who the Lord has made us as a family of churches, with the doctrine that we confess together, the polity that helps us labor together, our shared values, our shaping virtues. It's because of all of that, things that have been nurtured and preserved and transferred for generations. For those things to continue to be, I think, preserved and transferred for future generations, I do think the Pastors College has a vital role to play in that, a strategic role to play in that. There's a number of reasons for that, but one primary among them is we don't exist just to train guys for ministry. We are training guys for ministry in Sovereign Grace. And so one of the phrases I'll often use, speaking about the Pastors College, is that it is pastoral training that's calibrated to our partnership. It is designed to strengthen our partnership. It imparts values that are vital to our partnership. We're not just an institution that guys send men to. We exist to serve those churches in particular ways, to strengthen those churches and to strengthen our partnership together as churches. So again, we're not just a generic freestanding institution that shapes our curriculum, that shapes our program based on, in a vacuum, driven by our preferences or my own idiosyncratic preferences, or, what the market will bear, with regard to other institutions and so forth. We exist to serve our churches. We are accountable to our churches. And so we seek to design and continually strengthen, hopefully, a program that serves the interests of our churches. So that will include our doctrinal commitments, that includes our philosophical commitments, that includes our missional commitments, that includes even our polity convictions are encapsulated in that. And I'll tell you, and I think you know this, Steve, but as you observe the broader evangelical world, and you look at where certain institutions have moved, how theological definition has weakened, even how schools that have not weakened their doctrines, but their programs have been shaped by pressures. So institutions that drop, for instance, language requirements, or institutions where a large number of their students, if not a majority of their students, are online. I do think the Pastor's College is helping to preserve and strengthen and protect us. Again, protect us in our doctrine, in our mission, and our relationships. And I trust, above all, our gospel commitments. Ultimately, our devotion to Christ and His glory in our lives and in our churches.
Well, that's fantastic. Love talking about partnership because, the Pastor's College is one of those strands that forges our churches together in partnership. But talk for a minute about then why it's important to have a pastor's college to do that and to do training for a family of churches like ours. Because in the New Testament, I don't read about Paul sending guys to a pastor's college or any kind of centralized training locale. They guys just went out and did ministry. They were trained in local churches. But we have a pastor's college. What does the pastor's college do that local churches can't do?
That's a super question. And the thing I'd want to say first is local churches do have responsibility to raise up pastors. We do see that in the New Testament. 2 Timothy 2:2 places that imperative upon every pastor, I think. So it's not that a church is unable to raise up pastors. Obviously they can. And clearly not every man aspiring to pastoral ministry in Sovereign Grace churches, perhaps especially bivocational pastors, they're not able necessarily to come to the pastor's college. Although, I do want to say, over 25 years, I've seen the Lord provide in remarkable ways. So I wouldn't want someone to discount that too quickly. But, and again, not every church is necessarily in a position to send someone to the pastor's college. So, I want to affirm those things and not diminish what a local church can do. But if a church can, I would strongly encourage them to consider that, because we're simply able to accomplish things in the pastor's college that would be impossible for a local church to do. But that is not because we have built something great and the churches have not. The reason for that is because Sovereign Grace churches have partnered together to create the pastor's college and to resource the pastor's college so that the pastor's college will produce a quality of training and an intensity of training that an individual church would love to do but can't. So I don't want anyone thinking, oh, yeah, the pastor's college over here, they're better than a local church. No, we exist because of the local church. We are resourced by the local churches. We are fulfilling a mission given to us by our local churches. So it's not a contrast. It is simply we've been resourced and charged by our churches to do that this particular kind of training. And there's many things we can enumerate there in terms of what we do that a local church can't do. Obviously, there's the resources available in the Pastor's College. There's also, again, made possible by our churches, there's a sort of pooled expertise in the Pastor's College through our staff, through our various instructors. The exposure to Sovereign Grace pastors and leaders that happens in the Pastor's College, I mean, they benefit not only from their own local church and their own local church pastors, but they benefit from pastors of many churches. They interact with many pastors, many leaders. They get to meet most, if not all, of the men, for instance, on the leadership team. They will meet a number of the men on our executive committee. They will meet regional leaders. They will meet senior pastors throughout Sovereign Grace. So they get an exposure to Sovereign Grace more broadly that they simply wouldn't in a local church. But again, that's because our local churches make that possible through the Pastor's College. They get to know the staff of Sovereign Grace churches. They get to benefit from CJ through his investment in the Pastor's College students. They learn worship from Bob Coughlin, who's here in Louisville. So when a man graduates from the Pastor's College, he has had an intensive exposure in many forms to Sovereign Grace writ large, and then to elements of Sovereign Grace through our doctrine, our Scripture, our training, but and again, our pastors as well. And then when you put on top of that the relationships that are forged in the Pastor's College, I tell the guys at the beginning of the year, the people that are going to most impact your life this year are seated around you, the other students God has assembled. And so it's in that community that is formed that leverages every aspect of the Pastor's College, academic settings, pastoral settings, personal settings, growth settings like small groups and so forth. All of that happens because of the community that is formed in the Pastor's College. Again, that's just not something that a local church would be able to do, at least in that kind of intensive way. And then, of course, there's just the benefit of a intensive, undistracted time that most guys will never get again in their life of just devoting themselves to study and reflection and reading and interaction. Most of them will never have that opportunity again. So it is a luxury to be able to come, but it is something that is, because of its concentrated nature and the intensity of it and the breadth of exposure, it's a particularly potent context, I think, for training pastors for Sovereign Grace churches.
Oh, I love that. I think it's such a great answer and such a great way to think about it. And okay, so along those lines, we hear testimonies at conferences from graduates, guys who have been through the Pastor's College. We see videos that have classrooms full of guys listening attentively, learning, taking notes, everything. And what's often not seen directly in those videos is the unseen heroes are the wives and families at home. They're wives and children who have come along and are supporting the student as he is working his way through Pastor's College. Mm-hmm. They're praying for him and encouraging him. But I see enough here to know that they're not simply along for the ride. Mm-hmm. Pastor's College is deliberate about looking for ways to care for and serve Absolutely. Wives and families as well. So yes. Could you talk for a minute about that? How does Pastor's College serve the Pastor's College wives?
Yes. That's a question I love answering because we don't think of the PC year as merely something for the men, for our students. We also give specific and intentional focus on the men's wives. And that stems from, that's not just we want to throw the wives a bone. That stems from a very important reality about the life of a pastor. And this is, being in ministry now for 25 years, this is something I have seen confirmed again and again. There are few, if any, factors more central to a man's fruitfulness and faithfulness for Christ than his wife and his marriage and his home. So we are jealous for the wives of the students to also experience what happens in the pastor's college, to benefit from the equipping and the encouragement and the care that happens in our context. And we design that equipping and encouragement and care specifically for the wives. So once a month, for instance, all the wives are gathered together for an equipping time. So there's teaching specifically created for them to help them serve alongside their husbands fruitfully in the context of the local church. The wives also meet in small fellowship groups like the men for prayer and encouragement and growth in sanctification together. Each of the couples meet with Brian and Kristen. Brian is our director of student care, and so they are meeting with them as couples to learn and grow. All of the couples are meeting in couples groups, again with Brian and Kristen, so that they can grow in their marriage and their parenting, and as just individuals. Every one of the PC wives meets with my wife, Julie, at least twice a year for encouragement, for care. If I were a wife, I would want to come just for that. But I'm biased there, but I know how my wife cares for these ladies. We have events throughout the year that are designed to invest in and serve the families of the pastor's college, so that the families are built together in the community of the pastor's college as well. And that's actually a very important dimension that affects the wives as well as the students. We will often talk about the community that is formed in the pastor's college. And it's unlike any theological or pastoral educational institution I've ever been involved with. The relational aspect of the pastor's college it's key to what we do. It's prominent to what we do. Students aren't just passing each other in the halls, distantly connected, or undergoing the same curriculum online. They experience the entire life together, both in personal settings, in educational settings, in pastoral settings. And because of that, a community is formed. And I've often said it's that community that leverages every aspect of the pastor's college, be it the educational aspect of it, the pastoral aspect, the personal aspect. Wives are part of that community. They benefit from that community. And it's that community that I think helps enrich the entire year for the wives. If you were to attend our end-of-year banquet, we have an end-of-year banquet where we reminisce together as couples, we feast together as couples. The husbands honor the wives honor their husbands. If you were to sit in and watch that, you would witness something very special that is the fruit of something that the Lord does throughout the year. Really, the Lord forms a band of brothers and sisters whose lives have been intertwined and who have experienced transformation together in ways that will endure for years to come. So it is true that the wives are the heroes, and they are served. They're doing the most important work and caring, especially those with small children. They're caring for their families. They're investing to free up their husbands to study. But it's not just they're doing that stuff while the husbands are doing other things that we secretly really think are more important. No, they really do experience the entire year in a way that by God's grace strengthens their marriages, strengthens their families, transforms their character, and equips them as couples to serve in local churches together.
Right. Yeah, I think that's such a great way to think about this, because watching now class after class come through, experience pastor's college, tell the story of the year as they're graduating and preparing to move back, it seems like the consistent testimony of these wives has been, this year has turned out to be not just a thing to be endured to serve a husband,
right,
but that she has been transformed and equipped in really significant ways too, and is prepared to go be a pastor's wife and whatever that might mean for her. Her children have been cared for. So it's really delightful to see how entire families here are being built together through that community of the pastor's college. So I love it. It'd be a good reason to come.
I think it would. And this is not a cliche. I really do, time and time again, when we send a couple out, I love these men, and I love them forever. I really do. But I also, their wives, I come to just so respect their wives and admire their wives. And I have, my faith for the men is greatly increased because of the wife by their side and the wife who's serving them and loving them and laying down her life for their families. That gives me great joy, and it builds my faith for the future. Again, not just the men, but the wives that God has given them.
Yeah. Good. So if somebody were considering pastor's college, they should know that incoming their wife is not just an appendage to that process, but is caring for her, serving her, and serving the family is integral to the entire program.
Our heart, our intention, our passion, for sure.
Jeff, that was really great insight, really helpful perspective on that. And if people want to know more, they can check out our website at sgcpastorscollege.com.